Today marks the day when over 1 million Palestinian hostages have been kidnapped, abducted, and without trial, virtually without trial, been incarcerated. It's over 1 million Palestinians who've been kept inside prisons.
I even speak their language and I understand them. But the point with these people, I cannot live. I cannot live with somebody who killed my fellow citizens, my people, you said about 67,000 people died, or 100,000 people or more.
Donald Trump received it. He said that was a great operation. We are talking here about a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is wanted by the ICC, and Donald Trump is another war criminal, because it's enough to have the intention. And he had a clear intention, even a plan, to evacuate Gaza and ethnically cleanse the Palestinians from their own homes and their own land.
Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive Perspective, a show in which we really focus on those people who rarely get a voice in mainstream legacy media. We're here to balance the books up, to let the voices which are unheard come out and tell you the truth that they know. Quite often it's a reality that we're being shown an unreality by legacy media. Today is a topic which is particularly a victim of exactly this, and that is the topic of the rights of Palestinians. And Donald Trump, in his wisdom, has decided that he wants to ethnically cleanse Palestine even more than it's been done in the decades that this issue has been going on. In reality, Donald Trump, most people are saying, is living in cuckoo land. Some say he doesn't know what he's doing. Others will say that the deep state and the Zionist lobby is dictating to him exactly what he should be doing, and he knows exactly what he's doing in this case. Do like, share and subscribe to this channel. And in the studio, I've got some fantastic guests today who are going to be able to give us, I think, a detailed account of what really is happening on the ground and what really is the reality. In the studio, we've got Dr. Al-Kabani, a journalist from Egypt, but based here in London. We've also got Brother Beliegh Jbara from Palestine itself, from the West Bank, but he's a lawyer based here in London. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. So I'm going to start really with you, Beliegh. First of all, as a Palestinian, witnessing what you've seen over the last year and a half or so, where are you in terms of, you know, the emotional, the mental, and the kind of just the headspace of what you've had to endure and see as a people?
I mean, for the last year, we're talking about 464 days of attacking Gaza and killing people. After the 7th, 8th of October, the Israelis were attacking Gaza, killing about 400 to 500 people every day. And it was not acceptable and not reasonable. I mean, being Palestinian and not Palestinian, they are human beings that they've been killed. I was saying it to my colleagues, from England, Sweden, anywhere, that even if, dogs, donkeys has been killed like that, we will make some memorial for them. But it was like Palestinian being killed for 3-4 months. I was watching my people in the TV, in the channels, being attacked, and nobody is doing anything. Bear in mind, Islamic community, Arabic community, only condemned, saying to Israel, back up, but it's not acceptable. And even before they started doing the 19th of January, just before Trump's ceremony to take over the White House, Biden and his team has agreed to do ceasefire and truth. But even that, before that was 30, 40, 50 Palestinians, Al-Mawasi in July, in August, Khan Yunis, Jabalia, Bet Hanun, all these towns in Gaza, and I'm not from Gaza. I have friends from Gaza. I have people who died there. I mean, bear in mind, I mean, I don't accept anything to be happening to any human beings, even in Ukraine, even the Holocaust. We don't agree to what Hitler has done to the Jews, but we're not accepting what the Jews doing to us or the Zionists. It's not right. Now, emotionally, I am in a shock that the international community. I mean, all the journey for 15 months, 14 months, it is a disaster. I mean, we were listening to people saying like international law, United Nations, ICC, Criminal Court, International Court of Justice. I mean, and the media and all that. But where we getting people? Blood was like in the ground, and nobody is looking at us. And then after that, the war extended to southern of Lebanon, and they killed people in Hezbollah and from Lebanese people, and also to Yemen, and nobody's stopping them, even like the Biden regime. Now we got to this new era of Trump, and what Trump's saying now is totally silly. It's like, you know, Trump in his meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, both of them, like, you know, actually out of reality. They cannot see, like, after 15 months, the Israelis have not achieved what they want. They haven't even released the hostages. And now we're getting into the point that they're saying, like, you know, Trump said, like, you know, America has taken over Gaza. I mean, in which basis? How can you do that? I mean, there's people living there. There's land, there's properties, there's registration of the land in the time of 1925. Even this Gaza existed before America was existing. You know, I mean, America, it was found by Columbus, I don't know, 400, 500 years ago. Gaza was there for thousands of years. Palestine was there before 5,000 years ago with Jerusalem and everything and Jericho. And now Trump, the son of yesterday, coming to tell us that he's taking over Gaza and putting troops in the ground sooner, and he wants to rebuild Gaza and get the people out of it. People will not move out of Gaza.
Thank you, Beliegh. Let me just come to my studio guest. Ali, you've been long-term journalist that has covered this region. You've followed the Palestinian genocides for decades, literally. Have you ever seen anything like this during that time? What's happened in this year and a half? And, you know, even now with Donald Trump, with this bizarre notion that he can just pick up Palestinians and drop them wherever he wants. Is there any sort of precedence for this that you can see this scale of if you like, abuse?
Well, over the 7 last decades, Israel, in all the military conflicts with the Arabs, they appeared as the victim, or they showed themselves to the media as the victim. So we find that the public opinion in the West and the media in the West were always sympathizing with Israel, the small country, the victim against these Arab countries, which they want through Israel in the sea, and they don't want them to exist, and so on and so on. This war from October 1923, the whole world show so clearly the ugly face of Israel, with all the atrocities and the brutality and the massacres they committed, and killing the civilians and destroying all the civilian infrastructure, including schools, mosques, churches, hospitals. So now the main victory for the Palestinian in this Palestinian Israeli conflict is that Israel, for the first time, lost the international media, lost the sympathy of the Western public opinion, and we can see in London here every week the demonstrations against and the protests against the Israeli brutality, and even in America. And we can see even Jewish voices condemning what Israel is doing in Gaza. But I have to say something. I blame ourselves for this position which we put ourselves in. Since 1948, the conflict was Islamic conflict against the Israelis. Then we reduced it to Arab conflict against the Israelis. And then we even reduced it further to Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And every time we reduce the circle of the struggle, the ceiling of the demands goes down. So after 1948, the whole Muslim world and the whole Arabic world were demanding the liberation of Palestine. And even we have the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. And then after the humiliating defeat of 1967, we say, we now want to liberate the occupied land which were occupied after the 1967 war, as if there was no conflict before 1967. And so our demand went down. And then after Oslo, it was just the West Bank and Gaza, with East Jerusalem as the capital. So always our demand, we reduce it voluntarily. But we should actually go back to the United Nations resolution of 1947, which gave unjustly Israel 54% of the land and gave the Palestinian the rest, which is 46% of the land. So we should demand, according to the resolution, which Israel existence depend on, that we get back all our land, not only West Bank and Gaza, with East Jerusalem as the capital. But the plot, as you know, is more than that. Even they want to take all the historic Israel, Palestine for the Israelis.
Well, of course, it's going further than that, because we know well that there is something called the Odin Yinon plan, which has the Greater Israel map in its mind. From the river to the sea, for them, means the Euphrates to the Mediterranean, essentially.
And River Nile,
yeah, that's their river to the sea motto, which they actually throw on Palestinians as if they're being racist and anti-Semitic when they use that term. The reality is the Zionists use this. But they also say, Beliegh, I'll come to you on this, they also say that actually, you know, they're acting in self-defense, that it's you Palestinians who started the war on October the 7th last year, and you murdered and you genocided and you killed babies and you beheaded babies. And you know, I've heard Piers Morgan on his program, I've heard people on several other of course Zionist leaning platforms say this over and over again. They seem to want to start this conflict on October the 7th. What's your take on that? I'll come
please
to...
allow it to say one sentence.
Okay, you go for it.
First, the conflict didn't start from 7th of October. Israel was killing the Palestinian in the West Bank and suffocating the Palestinian in Gaza before October 7th. So to say that as if the conflict started on October 7th, this is a big joke and a big twist of facts. The other thing, tell me where on earth and where in the history of the whole universe when a resistance movement cannot resist occupation. The resistance of occupation is a legitimate right for anybody who is occupied. Everyone say Israel have got the right to defend itself. Tell me where is that in the law? No occupier have got the right, legitimate right or legal right to defend itself.
Is that Geneva Conventions, UN laws, charters,
international
everything?
law? And the resistance have got the legitimate right to resist occupation and struggle against it even militarily, according to the law.
Well, the H group, I'm not even allowed to say the name because the Palestinian resistance, large chunks of it, are proscribed in Britain and America, etc. It seems as though we're not even allowed to utter the words of the people who are resisting, let alone accept that they have a right to resist at all. That seems to be off the menu as well. What are they allowing you to do in Palestine, Beliegh? If you're not allowed to stand up and say something against the Israeli regime vocally, if you're not allowed to even protest without being harassed, if you're not allowed to do armed resistance, how is resistance even a thing? What's your take on this, on the restrictions that you have on your rights to say what you want, do what you want on your own land?
Firstly, I want to comment on the first part of Mr. Kabani, what he said. And
Sure.
thank you for the historical background he gave about the conflict and the narrative, and then how it's narrowed until Palestinian and Israelis met together, until we got to Oslo and the agreement between the BLO and the Israelis in the best, like, we could, like, Gaza and Jericho first, and then we started with the negotiations. And then after that, his comment about the conflict that did not start in 7th of October. The Israelis and the world, they know the conflict started in 1948, and before that as well, when the British had the mandate in Palestine. We had in many occasions, in the time also of 1936 to 1939, we had a revolution in Palestine demanding our independence as a Palestinian state, and the Jewish were living in Palestine as a community. Now, to go after 1948 and 1967 and 1987, the first Intifada, and 2000 when we had Yasser Arafat, and resisting also in 2000 the second Intifada with Ad-Dua dying in the hand of his dad. We getting to your question, what we are allowed to do? We allowed to, we as Palestinians, we believe that we have to resist and we have to get and keep our land, even if it's demolished, piece by piece, anything, we have to keep it. Even the lefty Palestinian, the right Palestinian, that whatever they call them as tourists here, I am supporting them, because they have the right to defend and the right to live in their own land and to self-defense themselves. What happened in the 7th of October, if they say, like what they're saying in the media and the propaganda that they're selling to the West and to the world, it wasn't right. Even the Sky News and the media itself came and denied that the children has been beheaded or some girls has been raped. It was denied totally, not acceptable, and it wasn't happen. It didn't happen by the Palestinian movement and resistance movements. The consequences of 7th of October, Mr. Mohsen and Mr. Kabani, it was the siege on Gaza. 15 years from 2007 until 2007, 2008, no water goes to Gaza clean, no food, medications expired. In the time of COVID, people in Gaza died. Before that, I mean, anything you can imagine was happening to this kind of big ghetto, having 2 million people there. And it's a realistic thing, a normal thing to explode at one point and do something to get out of this gate and say, I don't want this gate anymore. And that's what happened. What you expect people, and even animals, you put them in a gate and then you give them bit by bit food and all that, and then you put your hand, they will eat your hand. But what happened in 7th of October was a victory for Palestinians to go outside and get their land and get what is belonged to them and tell them we are here. But they have not killed, they have not beheaded children, they have not raped any women or anything that they said. And whatsoever happened in 7th of October, and if we want to come, like, to be like, soft and say, okay, maybe it was mistake by the resistance and the self-defense, which is, I am against it. I am with resisting the occupation because it's an occupied land, and then it's like gated. If we come softy, what do you want us to do? I mean, we have done that. After we have done that, and we got out in the 7th of October, and we shouted at you, okay? We said to you, we are here with human beings. You getting us, you putting us in jail for 15 years, 17 years, and we are here. You come attacking us, killing 500-600 people every day for 15 months. What is it? And the world is watching. The Arab countries are watching. The Muslim countries are watching. Nobody has done anything. The first truce was for 1 week, 2 weeks, until it's not acceptable what happened in Gaza, in all the measurement, in all the standards, in all the world. And I don't believe there's any international law and international community anymore. As a lawyer, I lost faith in this international community, apart from talk.
Yes.
But what we can do, the only thing we have to do is like to get ourselves as unity as Palestinian and work together toward the best things, and I mean, Trump idea is not going to work, and it's not going to happen at all, unless they will bomb all the Palestinians, kill us by nuclear bomb or chemical bomb. And that will not happen unless the world will agree, and the Arab world will agree.
Wow.
800,000 people now in the north of Palestine. What they're going to demolish them? Bomb
So-
them? Burn them?
So you're even saying that the Israelis who possess nuclear weapons could actually have that as an option, and it certainly has been mooted by some Israeli politicians. I know they were talking about that option, and indeed, Gaza has been flattened probably by equivalent of three atomic bombs, at least, from my calculations. The amount of tonnage of explosives thrown on Gaza. It's calculated as being at least 3 or 4 times what Nagasaki and Hiroshima had, which is shocking in itself. On the point of October the 7th, Brother Al-Kabani, we know that there's something called the Hannibal Directive. Yep. We know that now, just this week, we've had Gallant admitting that he actually gave the order for Israelis to be killed. For the bombing that was done, it was indiscriminate, whether there were hostages or Israeli captives, prisoners of war, whatever you want to call them. The fact is, the Israeli government gave the order that they should be killed along with any other of the H group, if you like, resistance fighters. Now, that on its own level is a shocking, departure from any norm. According to even the war conventions. Let me add to that people have been talking about 40 to 50,000 Palestinians having been killed, half of them children, I have to add. Now we've gone up to 65,000 officially. Yep. The Lancet report about 5 months ago, warned us that the actual figure is something closer to 187, maybe 190,000. Yep. Because the deaths are not just the ones who were bombed and killed, it's those who are undiscovered, buried underground, it's those who are dying of cholera or malnutrition or starvation or the injuries they received at the time, later leading to deaths. None of this is accounted for in some of those official figures. I think it's a travesty that people have been touting that figure as the official one. But what I wanted to come on to you is to ask you really, in terms of the violation of all these rules, these rules of engagement, do you think that the world can turn the clock back now that Israel has gone there? They've used terrorist techniques to just detonate ordinary gadgets, literally created a mass terror incident. Yep. With those pages, with the other H group in the north, and they now have this ecocide, the genocide, the infanticide, I don't know how many other sides I want to do it, but their environment itself has been attacked, and the hospitals and the schools. Have they left anything sacred in terms of what war really means to us?
The war crimes, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing committed by Israel haven't been seen all over history. You mentioned the pagers. This is a crime against humanity. And Benjamin Netanyahu, when he went to Washington to meet Donald Trump, he took for him a present, a golden pager, referring to that operation.
Shocking.
And when Donald Trump received it, he said that was a great operation. So we are talking here about a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is wanted by the ICC, and Donald Trump is another war criminal, because it's enough to have the intention. And he had a clear intention, even a plan, to evacuate Gaza and ethnically cleanse the Palestinian from their own homes and their own land. So Donald Trump is another war criminal. Coming back to what happened on 7th of October, we will know from the investigation exactly what happened. But Professor Flinkenstein, a Jewish American academic, said that Israel claims that 1,200 Israelis were killed during Hamas attack on 7th of October. 400 of them were military. And that is in any conflict is not a problem. 700 are civilians. Hamas didn't go there to kill some Israelis and go back. They wanted to take some hostages to trade them for the Palestinian hostages in the prisons of Israel. Some of them are children, many of them are women, and they are detained without any court order, and they were not even tried, and they don't know what their crimes. So they went there to get hostages, to exchange them with their own hostages, Palestinian hostages, in Israeli jails.
Can I just put in a fact I found out today myself? Today marks the day when over 1 million Palestinian hostages have been kidnapped, abducted, and without trial, virtually without trial, been incarcerated. Over 1 million. Since this conflict, since the establishment of Israel, it's over 1 million Palestinians who've been kept inside prisons. So just to qualify for people, just how dark this is.
And the conditions in these prisons are awful. There is no medical care. There is no proper food. There is even sexual abuse of the prisoners, as Jewish guards of these jails admitted themselves.
I've literally seen a video today. I was watching a video on Twitter. There is a scene of a Palestinian who was plucked out from the crowd, who were on the ground, lying virtually naked. They took him to the side and they literally raped him with some sort of object. It was some kind of truncheon or something. So much so that he was then taken to hospital straight afterwards, and his injuries were described as multiple and very severe. I mean, they literally had no value whatsoever. That's just one visual case that actually a tape came into the hands of people. It's now viral. But how many more of these kinds of abusive cases do you think there were?
This is undisputed fact because it was discussed inside the Israeli Knesset. And they were saying, is it a crime to rape Palestinian criminals in our jail or no? Goodness. So can you imagine how low they put themselves in as a human being to discuss is raping prisoners legal or illegal? So they are really crazy. So Frankenstein said, out of those 700 civilians, they were killed during the conflict or the fighting between the Hamas fighters and the Israeli army. So, and the Israeli army bombed some houses in these kibbutz with Israeli inside, not to be taken as hostages. This is what the Israelis are saying. The other thing, if you go to this music festival and see the car park, did Hamas fighters have time to bombard every car in this car park? Of course, it was the helicopter shooting the car park with bombs and all that, because hundreds of cars were destroyed completely. So this is the Hannibal doctrine, what you refer to, which Israeli army is using all the time and relying on most of the time.
Thank you, Eli. Now, look, the 9,000 prisoners, I think, from West Bank area, majority, were abducted since October the 7th, 2023. This is another statistic. They literally went on a crazy mission to arrest people in West Bank. The fighting was in Gaza. They said the problem was Gaza, but Beliegh, over 9,000 is the figure that I've got of prisoners that were taken, of hostages that were taken essentially, with no charges, with no reason to be taken. They also attacked the West Bank to the point where I believe now it's over 900 Palestinians from the West Bank have been killed. And they said that the problem was in Gaza. Tell us a little bit about the ground realities of what Israel's been doing in the West Bank and perhaps Gaza as well, from your kind of knowledge base.
You know, the Israeli government that now in power, it's like, you know, very fanatic, and they are having the dream and the idea of having all Palestine. And the main land for them is like the West Bank, like, you know, Nablus, Jenin, Beit Lahem, and Jerusalem. This is the Jehuda and Samara, what they call it, Jehuda and the Samara, and that's what it's Smotrich and Ben Gavir thinking about. The West Bank is their aim apart from Gaza. I mean, I cannot distinguish, take part of Gaza and the West Bank. We all Palestinians, and we all one. So Palestinians attacking Gaza on the West Bank, I cannot discriminate between them. But even in the West Bank, there's been always violation of the agreement, of the Oslo agreement, or the agreement they have done with the Palestinians Authority, throughout also the coordination committees they have. And the Palestinian Authority has been given up just in case that we're going to get our anatomy and then our self-determination idea, and then rebuild our bridge with Gaza and have one unity. But up to the end that we cannot give up more. And also the Palestinians in the ground in the West Bank, in Nablus, Jenin, Tulkarm, where the camps of Tulkarm and the camp of Jenin, people cannot face, cannot tolerate Israelis coming in area A and area B and arrest people and go out like that against their agreement with the Palestinian PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, in 1993. So what's happening? It's a total violation by the Israelis, and they want the whole West Bank. Now, also the idea, if we're talking about Trump administration and what they can do for the Israelis at this time, it was also in the previous Trump administration between 2016 to 2020 that he wanted to annex also the Jordanian Valley and the West Bank to Israel, which is totally goes out of mind, against Geneva Conventions, against the international law, against recognized it. Even now the Congress has voted that they shouldn't say occupied territory about the West Bank. Well, so basically the idea of the Israelis, and at this time of the government, of the Israeli government, is to take over also the West Bank and take over the Palestinian in the West Bank, also even to transfer them from the West Bank to Jordan.
Well, that brings me to the question, and it is the thorny question. You talked about unity earlier. We know also that Mahmoud Abbas sent in forces into Jenin as well, on the behest, presumably, of Israel. So the Israelis are trying to get the Palestinian Authority to do their dirty work. Yep. And that, what's your take on Palestinian internal unity in this regard? What do you want to see happen? What do you think will happen in the future? Will the PA be engaged to do the Israeli dirty work?
No. It was wrong by the Palestinian Authority to go in or to get the military or their forces to be involved and send people into the West Bank or to Jenin, basically. But they had intelligence information that they have got from the ground that this is a group of people that they're working for some very fanatic and religious group that they want to turn the law upside down, and they're working against the authority and the government of the local authority, the Palestinian Authority, which was misled, and the Israelis has played it right with the Palestinian Authority. Firstly, I mean, we as an Arab and Palestinians, and Mr. Kabani understands me, that we can also involve the social capital into this act and get the heads of the family, head of people. We will know who's the head of the group that acting as resistance, and send the people who's his uncle, his dad, and to speak to them via the Palestinian Authority.
Right.
There's a mistake happened. It shouldn't happen again. The Palestinian Authority understand it's wrong. But I disagree with the Palestinian Authority getting involved or killing Palestinians, because what happened also in 2006, 2007, and Palestinians killing each other, Fatah and Hamas, was wrong. And because that we have divided, and we don't need more divisions and more dividing us between us, the Palestinians. And I'm against the Palestinian Authority doing such a work, and that they're to work for Israelis. Though I have also in mind that there's also some people within the authority that also still making coordination with the Israeli army in the ground, which should be stopped totally from long time ago. With our enemy, we shouldn't coordinate, and we should resist also in the West Bank.
Well, I'm going to come on to Brother Ali. That gives me a very definitive answer. Thank you for that. Ali, let's move into the present. Donald Trump has made this pronouncement. Netanyahu wagged his tail, or I don't know whether it was Donald Trump wagging his tail. he agreed. He said that this proposal should be taken seriously. Egypt and Jordan, which were the prime targets of the kind of the new displacement order, which is actually technically worse than ethnic cleansing. Yep. The displacement is completely violating any law, so international laws. And they've reacted very vehemently. The Jordanian king and Sisi have both rejected outright the notion that Palestinians could come. I could see that if the Palestinians ended up in Egypt, that Israel could tomorrow turn around and say, Egypt, you're not really taking care of this situation. Palestinians are still supporting the resistance inside so-called Israel. Therefore, we need to come into the Sinai and do this ourselves. Do you think that's the intention? Is that where they're going?
You know, the real danger now is the expansionist plan of Benjamin Netanyahu, supported by Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in one of his press conferences in the Oval Office, he showed his desk and said, this is the Middle East. And he took a black pen and he said, this is Israel. So the man wants to show or prepare the public opinion and the media that Israel need to expand.
It's too small.
It's too small for its people. And it need to expand. Israel is a country or a state without borders. They don't have a map. And the map they have in their Knesset is from the River Nile to the Euphrates, which is Greater Israel. So they want actually Jordan, part of Iraq, part of Syria, Sinai of Egypt, up to, as a first step, and then up to the River Nile, and then even part of Saudi Arabia. So this is their mad plan. But I'm saying that, and in 1948 we said this is a mad plan, but they applied it. Because when they have a plan, they work to achieve it and fulfill it. And we are not doing anything to combat this plan. The expansion is now is the real danger, and we have to do something to stop it.
Would you say it's already started, though? Because southern Lebanon now effectively is still occupied by the Israelis. And if I could add
the Golan Heights up to the Quneitra.
Now Quneitra, so Syria, with what's happened in Syria, has facilitated the Israeli expansion. So already Israel now has probably double the territory of occupied territory it had arguably before, already just there. So do you see this getting worse, or do you see it somehow them being satiated by just this much?
Unless the Arabs realize the danger and act together to stop this brutality of Israel, the atrocities, and the expansionist plan, of course they will apply that, and they will do it. And in a way, as you rightly said, they want the Palestinians to go into Sinai, build a town for them there, and then if there is any kind of resistance, they will come like they came with their army in Gaza and occupy that part of Sinai.
You're Egyptian yourself. You know very well the Egyptian politics. What do you think will happen from their side? Is there a chance that Egypt genuinely could break the Camp David agreement? Is there a chance that the old erstwhile allies of America could also get rattled? Where are we going with this? Because it seems that the old rule books are all being torn up. Do you think there's a real chance of these what are really satellite puppet governments we've regarded really as American? I mean, the Egyptian government is regarded as that. I have to say the Jordanian king has been regarded as a puppet for many centuries. Do you think that's where we're going? I'm going to put the same question to Beliegh, but first, your thoughts.
You are right, because in the American Congress, they said about Jordan and Egypt, they are client states working for us. And we don't pay Egypt $1.3 billion every year for nothing. They have to accept our dictates and work accordingly. And Jordan is the same. And I am personally against the military regime in Egypt. I'm one of the opposition. But Sisi, when he wrote to Donald Trump, he said, this is not my decision. This is a decision of the whole nation. And Sisi knows that neither the army nor the people of Egypt will accept the transfer of the Palestinian to Sinai or to Egypt, because this is killing the Palestinian issue. And this is what they don't want. So a lot in the Western media are saying why the Arabs are not helping the Palestinian and all that. Of course, they want to help them, but they don't want to help them and help Israel to evacuate Gaza or evacuate the West Bank, because this is what Israel wants. The other thing is, now the whole world is against this mad idea of Trump of ethnically cleansing Gaza. But the danger is, you know, in Negev Desert in Israel, there is an airport. And Israel now are telling the Palestinian in Gaza, anyone who voluntarily want to leave, we will give him an air ticket and we will take him to the country he wants and we will arrange the visa for him. So he will have no problem.
Right.
So you have to put yourself in the place of those poor people. Gaza is uninhabitable. So some people might take that offer. And Israel is saying that until now they have got 100,000 which are ready to do that. 100,000 from 2 million is nothing. It's 5%. But again, this is the way they are trying to make life impossible in Gaza. For people, they have no alternative but to leave. Today, actually, while I'm coming to the studio, I hear that Hamas stopped the hostages deal agreement.
Why?
Because Israel is violating the agreement by not sending or allowing the aid to the Gazan people. So they said unless and until Israel respect all the clauses of the deal, we are not going to exchange the hostages.
Let me bring Beliegh back. Beliegh, your thoughts on that. Will the Palestinians take the money and run after what they've been through over the last year and a half and beyond? Will they emigrate? Will they leave their homeland? What's your thought?
First of all, I want to comment on the first part of Egypt and Jordan about, like, you know, the Camp David agreement and the Araba Accord. That, you know, I don't think those states will breach those agreement or like revoke them. They will stay like in peace because they have to. And for those agreements, they're getting the money, as Mr. Kabani said, 1.3 or 1.3 billion to Egypt and 1.1 to Jordan. Secondly, the Jordanian government and kingdom, like, you know, protecting Israel from all this long border there, and Egypt also from the south. And that's their duties. Apart from, like, you know, their duties wasn't like taking Palestinian in, because the Egyptian nations and the Jordanian nation, bear in mind, in Jordan we have about 65% Palestinian living there, if not more.
How many percentage?
So, and I mean, even them,
Wow.
to answer your question now, secondly, to get to your question about will the Palestinian agree, I have said that from the beginning. Palestinians will not do the same mistake as my grandfather did or other people did, and they ended up in refugee camps with nothing. And even if we end up with the palaces now, we won't leave our land. That's what the Palestinians saying in Gaza. Their house is demolished. It's like stones above each other, and they say, we're not going to leave. We're going to attend here and stay here. So Trump or Netanyahu plans will not be accomplished and not going to happen.
Well, it's interesting, Beliegh, because
from the past.
I'm kind of wondering that if dear old Donald Trump wants to go and build a Riviera resort, and he wants to occupy that area and turn it into some sort of Shangri-La of his own as a bit of real estate, what's he going to do with the 700 kilometers of tunnels where the H group is operating? Because they're still there. Surely, even if they export all these poor Palestinians, which they bombarded into smithereens virtually, there'll be still the factor of the resistance. Do they really think that they would get away with living there without an insurgency?
No. The question here, if we're gonna, like, you know, go to this imaginary vision, and if Trump like succeeds to make the Gaza Strip as a Riviera, it shouldn't be without the Palestinian being there. The Palestinian can stay there. Trump can come and invest in our Palestinian land, and it's still our land, registered under the land registration law of 1925, British law, as registered in the Palestinian names, and the camps also registered in Palestinian people who has come from Ascalon and Ashkelon and Majdal and all these towns next to Gaza. And Trump can come and invest in our land with cooperation and agreement with Palestinian leasing him the land. Now, with the tunnels there, we can agree to make the tunnels as a metro of Gaza, with a tunnel for metro for people to move and all that. And we have our countries, we have our own knowledge, our modern, our educated people. They can make Gaza as the best, like, space city, as Tesla based on thinking, Elon Musk. But this will be controlled by Palestinian and for the Palestinian living there, not for the people and opportunity of work for the Israelis coming to work in our land and kicking us out. You can come, lease our land,
Who invited?
give us money, give our opportunities and work, and we live in our land and we work in our land. After 25, 30 years, 50 years leasing, we can tell you buy, like what happened in Hong Kong with the British in 1998. They have been out, the British,
Brother
leasing
Ali,
the land for 99
Who
years. But we're
invited
not leasing
Donald
the land
Trump
even.
to come and reconstruct Gaza? The Gazan people and Palestinians, they don't need him, and they don't need American company to come and reconstruct their land. They will do it themselves.
let me throw another cat amongst the pigeons, if you like. There is probably one of the largest finds of gas off the Palestinian coastline. Donald Trump is about money. So clearly when he talks about this Riviera, he hasn't forgotten the fact that there are huge gas reserves which are off the coast of Gaza. He also won't have forgotten the fact that Netanyahu and company have long had a plan for an alternative Suez Canal, which comes from the Red Sea and passes right through Gaza. Two factors which make Gaza extraordinarily financially viable. What's your take on this? Have you heard about all this oil and all this gas? Because they've got the oil in Golan. We know that they're controlling that. But the gas and this Suez Canal, this is
Canal.
Yeah, this is multi-billion-dollar return. Is that what Trump is really looking at? Is that why it's so important to get rid of you guys from Gaza?
It's not Trump who's looking at this, the Israelis. Trump will have part of that cake, like piece of the cake for his future and for his grandchildren and children. The question here, not me, I cannot comment on this. Even the Palestinian government and the Palestinian Authority and even Hamas cannot say, we can say that we're not accepting the idea of like anybody comes and take our resources and our land and our gas and our the channel that you're talking about gonna go in the Negev and goes behind and then goes into the in the Mediterranean Sea, I think. But this is also like, the Egyptian have to oppose to it because it's gonna kill the Suez channel. But my thought about this and what he's thinking about taking like economic advantage of the thing. Trump, I don't think he's thinking about that because at this time now, he might have percentage and investment in this project, but after 10 years, Trump will be under the ground, or 20 years. He's not going to be here. How old is he? 78, 80? He's going to have it for his kids and grandchildren, and we'll have a new president of the USA, and might be Democratic or other leader from other group. The question here, even for the Palestinian gas and the channel behind Gaza, the channel behind Gaza, will be the Israeli controlling it, and the port. Bear in mind, we don't have the port yet to build, and to build all this land, we're saying like 15 to 20 years to rebuild Gaza, and we don't need anybody to build Gaza. After that, we think about the gas, but we'll not allow anybody to make the gas deal or take our gas. But at one point, Mr. Abbas and Mr. Kabani, we have to be one unity. Then I can comment in the gas things. If it's within the Palestinian land and the Palestinian sea side and all that, it's ours. Nobody can take it from us, and we will fight for it. But bear in mind, it has to have a huge investment and money to invest and get the gas out. So we have also the Arab countries that they can come over, like Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, all other countries to help us with it. But the question here, we have to be one unity.
So
exactly, because Benjamin Netanyahu already signed contracts with companies to extravagate the oil from the oil fields on the coast of Gaza, thinking that he will ethnically cleanse the Palestinian from Gaza, and Gaza will be him. He will resettle there, and the gas will be his.
So let's come to solutions. We've got about 10 minutes left. What I want to focus on, Benjamin Netanyahu, the genocidal, clearly we've all concluded he's genocidal. We've seen the videos. It seems that the law courts, etc., need to make up their minds fully. And first of all, they've got to get him in front of a court. But even before that kind of dream that we'd have of seeing him in front of the law courts, there's the other reality that they've now presented a solution. Smotrich, Ben-Gvir, the most extreme of the extreme Zionists there in Israel, have made it clear they want to gazump the rest of the West Bank. They want to expand the settlements. Trump seems to be backing that idea. They want to get rid of these Palestinians from Gaza completely. And what's more, they've also started, as we've concluded, started expanding towards the Euphrates, one way or another, by hook or crook. That's their solution. Their final solution is the total annihilation of Palestinians or the expulsion of them completely, and their own military occupation, or through their proxies and puppets, the control of all of the territory up to the Euphrates. What's the plan of the resistance, or can I say the Palestinian resistance? What's the solution? Is it a one-state solution that we're looking at? Is it completely a Palestine? Where would you see the future from a Palestinian perspective or from a justice perspective?
The Americans and the Western countries, their allies, promoted the two-state solution to save the Jewish state. Because they knew quite well that if it's a one state, the Palestinians sooner or later will be the majority in this one state. So you cannot have a Jewish democratic country as they claim, because democratic means that one man, one vote, and those Palestinians will vote, and Israel will never allow that. So it is not going to be democratic. Because Palestinian will be majority, it's not going to be a Jewish. So that will be the end of the Zionist dream.
Right.
So in my opinion, the one-state solution is the best for me. But as I said, the Western countries are trying to save the Jewish state for the Israelis by applying the two-state solution. So Israel, sooner or later, will have to choose between existence in a small piece of land or non-existence. That's a solution. And on the long run, the demographic calculation will be the time bomb for the existence of Israel.
$67 billion is the loss that Israel has made during this war. That's the official figure. They've now got displaced settlers, both from up in the north, Kiryat Shimona, etc., to the tune of maybe 100,000 plus. Down in the south, Ashkelon, etc., has been emptied out. This makes it an unemployment figure, probably in Israel, which is like going through the roof. The exodus from Ben Gurion Airport of Israelis has never seen this scale.
1 million Israelis
1 million
have left Israel and do not plan to come back.
Well, just these statistics alone, Beliegh, do they give you encouragement that basically Israel is actually, whilst it's trying to give this bluff and bluster of expansionism and trying to kick out the rest of the Palestinians from their land, is Israel in an existential crisis? Can it even survive given this kind of rate? Because internally they've got divisions as well, let's not forget, and it's only with American money that they can sustain their support. But in America, 40% of Jewish young people now say they do not support Israel, let alone others. The Jewish youngsters are saying we don't support Israel anymore. And of course, across the world, Israel has lost face. Literally every nation, whether they say it or not, only because of the fear of American sanctions, do they not get involved in supporting the Palestinian cause openly. But everybody knows that Israel is basically now a pariah in the social, in the kind of moral sense. And that is across the board, apart from the Anglo-Zionist imperialist nations themselves. Do you think all of this picture that I've painted means that Israel is going to actually have to come to another reality, which is an internal destruction of their own nation, regardless of the Palestinian resistance and the insurgency which is still going on?
Totally agree with you in this, that Israel has its own crisis and its own divisions within the society, and the Israeli people, like, having their own problems now within their own community, as Mr. Al-Kabani, and you said that, like, almost 1 million people or less, I don't know, or more, moved out of the state of Israel to Australia, to Canada, even to Europe, and back to, they have asked for also, like, Czech Republic and Polish, like, nationalities back. The answer to this question of, like, if you know your enemy, you know how they think and how they deal with things. And I know that enemy is, like, very clever, and they're dealing with the situation in a way with the media. Even they're going to tackle everything now, having the powerful state next to them, and even the British with them, let's say, and the French government and the presidents. But this is not making us giving up. We have hope, and then we are existing in the ground as Palestinian. We are on the ground. I mean, bear in mind, they want to kick us away. They kick the West Bank people out. They want to kick out the Gaza people. We still have like 2 million Palestinians inside, which is the 1948 Palestinian. They cannot get them out unless they want to kill them. So we have a lot of cards to play with as Palestinian and resist. The Palestinian Jerusalem, which is East Jerusalem, we have about 350,000 Palestinians there. So, and they have problem with, like, coexistence with the Palestinians now, because they've been for the last 15 years with the government of Netanyahu making propaganda about Palestinian and about hatred and discrimination against Palestinian, even 1948 Palestinian. But with all, like, also the point also, they have implemented the crime and the drugs and the lie and the scam things into the Palestinian society of 1948 inside Palestine, inside the Israeli state, like Nazai, Sfaamir, Al-Fahm, Taibi, Tia, big cities there with a lot of Palestinians. And bear in mind, they are Palestinians, Muslims, and Christians, that they believe about the Palestinians right to exist, and they have self-determination. They cannot get rid of those Palestinians. They have given them citizenship. Let's say half, they managed to get rid of half of the Palestinian West Bank, half of the Palestinian of Gaza, which is impossible. No way. As we said, like, maybe out of 2,150,000 Palestinians will go in Gaza, another 100. But the Israelis have a crisis. They're leaving in mass number. But the point that the Israeli government and the Israeli system is institutionalized. There's an institutions and there's government. Netanyahu goes, there's somebody else come. Even he will be lefty, but he will be even trying to publish and make the Israeli Zionist dream, what they're trying to do. So we dealing with an enemy that they knowing what they're doing, and we are struggling within our own unity and our own country and neighboring countries that from our own nation.
So my last question to you and for the show is this: the same question I asked Brother Al-Kabani. What's the solution? If it's a one-state Palestinian solution, do you see that Palestinians could live and coexist with Zionists in such a state? Do you see a circumstance in which, because clearly the Zionists don't seem to think they can, do you as a Palestinian think that's possible?
It would be an apartheid state if it's one state. If they don't give the Palestinian the right of one man, one vote.
It is an apartheid state now. We are living in an apartheid regime, even the 1948, and the Palestinians themselves, with the wall dividing us between them and us. We are an apartheid state. We are a third, fourth class citizens in our own country that we were born. When an Israeli comes from Ukraine or from Russia, and he's straight away, he wasn't born in Palestine, and he takes the Israeli passport and the house and home and everything in my grandfather land. This is an apartheid, like what happens in South Africa, and getting the white people there and kicking the own people, the indigenous. We are the indigenous. We are the people from the land, and we living in an apartheid state now. What could be happening in the future? Not a one-state solution. I wouldn't live in the same state as with Israelis and coexist. I even speak their language and understand them. But the point with these people, I cannot live. I cannot live with somebody who killed my fellow citizens, my people, my. You said about 67,000 people died, or 100,000 people or more, and it's not that. It's been like they've been slaughtering us and killing us before Deir Yassin, from Tantua until Deir Yassin until 1960 and Kufr Qasim and 1967
Massacre
and
after massacre.
on and on, and it's been going. Do you want me to live with some people who killed? I mean, it's not going to happen now. And even for the generation, they have their own problem with their security, the Israelis now. We see like 5, 6, 7 years old children now. Their dad, their uncle, their auntie, their mom died with bomb by the Israelis, and they have it in their mind. I remember in 1982, Sabah and Shatila, and I saw that in TV, people like being slaughtered in Sabah and Shatila, and I was told that by the Israelis and Sudanese, and this picture is in my face. What do you expect those people and new generation saw all this slaughtering? And we're talking about the new generation in America and the West and in the north of Europe, seeing that, and they will be also voting for the Palestinian to have their own self-determination. But I don't know. Hopefully, this will be happening in 20, 50 years or 10 years.
Well,
coexist with the Israelis, I can't.
I really want to carry on this conversation because there are just so many other dimensions, and I promise we'll bring you both back again to have a part 2 to see how this unfolds, how Trump's dream of the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians works out. Let's see how his Riviera works out, and let's see how the Arab nations now react to the fact that we have got a new regime which is managing to trump the Biden regime. Trump is trumping Biden. It seems to he's going to the next level. I would really focus on this idea that Beliegh has raised. Would you, as Europeans, would I, as a person living in Europe in the Second World War, after the Nazis had done what they'd done, would I be able to live with the Nazi establishment and the regimes as they were, with their ideology intact, as it was? Would that have been acceptable to the Allies at the end of any conflict that occurred? And was there any way of dealing with the Nazis or that fraternity other than war and a conclusive final, reckoning? These are questions that I'm going to leave with you in your own mind to understand what it might be like to ask Palestinians who've had their children, their women killed, bombed, murdered, starved and malnutrized incessantly for decades. Is it reasonable for us to expect Palestinians to be looking forward to a happy-clappy Riviera existence with even Zionists as they stand? Food for thought. Thank you, Brother Ali Al-Kabani. Thank you also, of course, to Brother Beliegh Jbara. I'm looking forward to our ongoing discussion around this issue. Thank you for watching Deep Dive Perspective. Do please remember to like, share and subscribe to the channel, and we look forward to being with you again soon.